I'm back here in the Create mod in the latest update, and I want to look at one very specific item. This is the pulse timer. User Pix2299 on Reddit shared a link with me of something that they discovered with this and a way that it can interact with note blocks, which I think will be incredibly useful. But first, let's look into what this actually does. You'll notice here it is giving a pulse every now and it has a tick time on it. So this is 20 ticks, which is 1 second. And what it is actually doing is it's sending out a pulse every 1 second. So if we just get a lamp or something, we can see that the lamp lights up and it's essentially working like a clock. This is already incredible. I can see so many uses to this with notebooks and just, with Redstone and Create in general. It seems like a fantastic addition. But I really want to test this and see exactly what we can do with it and how it can interact with noteblocks. So if we ponder it, let's look first of all at what it can do. So yeah, it emits short pulses. They used a lamp to test as well. You can change the time on it, so you can change the amount of ticks, and you can lock it as well. So it runs by default, which is quite strange to me, but it runs by default. You can lock it and you can invert it so that it's fully on and turns off on every cycle. So if we do this again, and do we just right click that? Yes. Now, because it's a short pulse, that is actually too short. So let's, I don't know why I thought that would work. Okay. It's interesting that it is just a short pulse. The test that they used was the hopper. So let's try that. So if we have items in here, it does give the hopper enough time to deposit an item. I see. Okay. Note block wise, I think we can use the inversions, and that is because of that video shared on Reddit. So the way that they set it up is they had just a lever like this, and then they powered note blocks. So I think they use the lever to make sure that it is off by default. If we change this to 2 ticks on both and invert one, they alternate. That is so good. That is so good. So I have previously built giant spinning machines with the redstone contacts, where the contact triggers 20 different note blocks as it goes round, with the whole purpose of trying to play note blocks quickly. That's the entire point of that machine. Play note blocks quickly. And this just does it with this setup. And you can probably compact this even further. So you can actually have things basically be in one line. And I've added a bit of a gap between the pulse timers and the note blocks because I want to test something. I was thinking if one note block is further away, it might sound a bit more interesting than having both of them be exactly the same volume. Because if you think about like a guitar, let me get some wool out, actually. So if we set this up with the guitar sound, when someone plucks a guitar like this, in a tremolo style, if every single note sounded exactly the same, it would sound quite robotic, I think. So you kind of want that difference between the downstrokes and the upstrokes. And I think having the note blocks be, quite far apart will give that effect. Although it's just so fast. I might actually try 4 ticks and not have it be the fastest. Yeah, you can kind of tell what I meant there. where one of these is louder than the other. So you have a bit of a difference there. But I do think it's probably more fun to have the 2 ticks and just have the fastest note blocks possible. Because what's actually happening here is we are getting a note block played every game tick, which is literally the fastest you can play note blocks. When I've done some experiments in the past, especially with like turning RPM into note blocks, I've noticed that everything sounds a little bit off when you use a BPM that's not in line with redstone ticks, because it's almost like a grid. So the notes snap to the grid of the nearest game tick. You cannot play a note block outside of a game tick. So the fact that we can play a note block on every game tick means that this is as fast as notes can be played. And obviously, if we want to make music with this, we probably want a redstone link in the center so that we can create a track running through the different links that then sends the power to here to play the individual notes. So we can have a few of these lined up, send it with a different kind of redstone chain somewhere else. The problem, though, is this has to be powered by default. So we need some kind of inversion somewhere in the process. So the way I usually set these up is we have a sequence like this, and then we start it, and then when the lamp is lit, that will send a signal to the machine to play the note. So if we're doing something with steam whistles, for example, that's exactly what we'll do. The signal will travel through, and when it is at this part, it sends a signal through the redstone link to turn on the steam whistle. The problem is, if we set up the redstone link here as the receiver, that just doesn't work, right? This is always on by default. So what we essentially need is the chain to be on by default and then turn off to start it. You see how we had the lamp that was off for a little bit? And that's how we're going to play the music. So I think something like this will work. I want to test if it works for 2 ticks as well as 4 ticks, because this tends to be how I set up the steam whistles. You need the signal length between each note to match your shortest note in the piece of music. That's how I've found things, because if this was 4 ticks and you wanted a note to only play for 2 ticks, unfortunately it will still last for 4 ticks, and then there's going to be some overlap between the notes. But if we send this through now, the torch turns off, and then we have this 2-tick chain. You can barely see the lamp turn off. In fact, it doesn't. And I think we should be getting 4 notes from this. So let's just make sure we see 4 notes. Yes, I saw that one play twice, and I saw that one play twice. Perfect. So that is sending 2 redstone ticks, so 4 game ticks, through this. Now, if we want to make this nice and compact, I think this is probably the smallest we can do it for 1 note. So these will be the same note. I need to get the resource pack for these note blocks. But yeah, these will be the same note. And if we turn it off, we can hear the guitar. And I want to see how close we can put the next one. Because if we do this, I think it's going to power the note block, like strong power this note block, and then also weak power the one next to it. Interestingly, we're no longer getting the note blocks above here. I wonder if these are still playing. I'm going to break these 2. Why are we not getting any sound from here? So when I first saw the video, the thing that surprised me most is that the note block doesn't just stay powered. And that seems to be what's happening here. Oh, it's because this one is fully powered. Right, so this one is fully powered because it's off, but they alternate. So you see how that signal is on and that signal is off. And then, okay. So yeah, either way, we saw that it was powering both of them there. So what we'll do here is we will place a block before the note block. So the block gets strong powered, and then the note block gets weak powered. So we'll make these the higher note, and then if we want to play the lower note. Yeah, that works, and the fact that they are side by side and not really disrupting each other, that works well. I think a redstone link would do exactly the same thing. So we can play this, and those notes played. And from the front, I mean, that is about as compact as you can get. Now, if we want to have multiple layers, so let's say the higher pitched note is above, we will have to leave an air gap so that the note can still play. But then we will do the same thing. We will have the link up here, and yeah, the redstone from this is not going to touch any of the redstone from this. So we can have 2 rows of 12 to get every note, and that's just really tidy. This is a very powerful redstone mechanism. So I'm going to work on this now. I'm going to set up every note and then probably program a simple piece of music, and we can see how it actually plays in full. This is what half the machine will look like, and I did realize something. We solved the problem of the notes playing by default by powering the line to begin with, but if we haven't designed the line yet, that means all the notes are going to be played all the time. So I've had to create this kind of muting system. Currently, this will mute all of the notes. Once we have a line set up with the notes of a specific song, we would just need to remove the notes that are part of that song because they no longer need to be muted, but the rest of them will need to be muted. Of course, if you build this machine to only be the notes that you require for the song, then that's not going to be a problem. But I'm building this to cover every note that we've got. And now to prove that the muting system is working, here's what it would be like without it. Yep. I think this is required. Okay, I have miscalculated. There is a big problem that I haven't really compensated for. So I have removed the first note from the muting, so it is only muted by the chain here. But when I play this through, you can see each lamp stops getting powered, but only one of these links turns off, which means the rest of them are still powered, which means it's still muted. So I don't think we can do a chain like this. And I'm just trying to think of what would actually work. Because let's say we had another link that essentially links the two, right? So let's say we've got a chain, that chain powers the link, which then powers another link. Are we going to end up with the same thing here? Because what I'm thinking here is, if we do something like this, then this becomes the muting system. We might not even need a muting system here. So this mutes these in here. And then this is a receiver, which comes from our chain. So let's just do double purple in there. Will this work? So changing all these means that the chain is now no longer muting this. So then, have we inverted things here? So now this is our muter, and we can turn off the muter by putting a signal through here. Yes. Okay, my brain's struggling to wrap my head around that. But yes, that works. So we can actually do the chain how we used to do the chains, where it's not powered until the signal goes through. But what we're doing is we are turning off the muting by doing something like this. Okay, so I've built that design for every single note in the system, which means we shouldn't need this anymore. Seems to work. I might keep this around just as like a failsafe, just in case something goes wrong with this. But now every single note is locked until that note is selected to be played by one of these links here. So we'll test it again and just make sure that it's working. Is that playing both notes? Yes. So that works well. I am very pleased with how this works. One thing to note, I did add the drums here, which I added to the same chain here. But if I come over here, I've actually had to move everything along one. So this really should start when this note plays here. But I've had to move everything 2 ticks down, and that is because all of this muting here has to go through a redstone torch. So this system here is 2 ticks behind this system here. This just instantly comes from these links here. They go directly to the notes, whereas these have to pass through this system. However, if I were to build a bigger song like this, what I tend to do is have separate lines for the different instruments. So this machine here would be this line, and then a few blocks up, I would build another line parallel to it for the drums. And then you don't have any issues. You could just, add the extra 2 ticks at the start, and then everything is going to be seamless. So that's it for the episode. Pulse timers are fantastic. I think there's a lot more you can do with them than just this. I might look into kind of polyrhythms and polymeters and stuff like that next time. But yes, I do recommend them. I recommend doing something like this. They are fantastic. If there's anything else from the new updates that you think could interact with note blocks or steam whistles, please do let me know. I'm still quite oblivious to everything that's out there. I hope you enjoyed the episode, and thanks a lot for watching.